My mother demanded I move my wedding because it was 3 weeks after her birthday. When I refused, she lied to our entire family, causing 47 people to cancel. I was devastated, so I held the wedding anyway and posted the photos that exposed her lies to everyone. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. I stared at the spreadsheet on my laptop screen, the blue light stinging my tired eyes. As a professional wedding coordinator, I have looked at thousands of spreadsheets. I have managed guest lists for high-maintenance brides, navigated seating charts for warring families, and smoothed over last-minute cancellations due to flight delays or sudden illnesses. I know how the numbers work. I know the attrition rates. I know that usually, you can expect a 10 to 15% decline rate from your initial invites. But this was not a decline rate, this was an exodus. My hand trembled as I reached for my coffee mug, forcing myself to take a sip, though my stomach was rolling so violently I thought I might be sick right there on my desk. The numbers didn't make sense. It was impossible. 47, I whispered to the empty room. 47 people. It was 2 weeks before the biggest day of my life. My own wedding. The event I had been planning in the margins of my life for over a year, carefully curating every detail to ensure it was perfect, not just for me, but for Liam, the man who had waited patiently while I built my career. I hit refresh on the digital RSVP platform, praying it was a glitch. Maybe the server was down. Maybe the software had merged a no column with a pending column. I watched the little circle spin, holding my breath, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The page reloaded. The numbers stayed the same. Declined Aunt Sarah. Declined Uncle Mike. Declined Cousin Jessica and her husband. Declined the entire Miller side of the family. Declined my godmother, erratic but usually present, Jeanette. A wave of dizziness washed over me. I gripped the edge of the desk, my knuckles turning white. It wasn't just that they weren't coming. It was the silence. In my line of work, when a close relative can't make a wedding, there is a note attached. So sorry, Alina, we have that cruise. Or, wish we could be there, send photos. There were no notes. Just a cold, hard digital no, repeated 47 times. I picked up my phone. I needed to hear a voice. I needed someone to tell me this was a prank, a mistake, a misunderstanding. I dialed Aunt Sarah first. She had been the one who bought me my first sewing kit when I showed interest in design. We were close, or I thought we were. The phone rang twice. Then it went to voicemail. I hung up and tried Cousin Jessica. We had grown up together, spending summers at the lake house, sharing secrets in the dark. It rang once, then the line went dead. She had declined the call. A cold dread settled in my gut, heavier than lead. This wasn't a coincidence. You don't get 47 cancellations in a 48-hour window by accident. This was coordinated. This was a strike. I looked at the calendar on my wall. Today was May 12th. My wedding was June 4th. And then my eyes drifted to the date circled in red marker just a few weeks prior. May 15th. My mother's birthday. I felt the blood drain from my face. I remembered the conversation we'd had 3 months ago, the tightness in her jaw when I showed her the save the dates. I remembered the comment she had made, so quiet I had almost dismissed it as a joke. You really expect people to celebrate you so close to my special week, Alina. I hadn't taken it seriously. I hadn't realized that for Brenda, my mother, there was no such thing as a joke when it came to the spotlight. I slumped back in my chair, the silence of my apartment deafening. I wasn't just a bride whose guests were flaking. I was a daughter realizing that her mother was capable of burning down a village just to keep the smoke in everyone's eyes. The notification pinged on my laptop again. Another decline, 48. The emptiness of the reception hall I had booked, the cavernous, beautiful space I had envisioned filled with love and laughter, suddenly felt like a tomb. I wasn't just losing guests, I was losing my family. And the silence from my phone screamed louder than any shout could have. The betrayal wasn't just in the numbers. The betrayal was in the silence that followed them. The nausea I felt wasn't a passing wave. It was a permanent resident in my body now. I spent the next hour pacing the length of my small living room, the floorboards creaking in a rhythm that matched my racing thoughts. Liam was at work, a shift at the hospital that wouldn't end until 8, and I didn't. To want to burden him with this panic until I had facts. I needed the source. I needed to go to the head of the snake. I dialed my mother's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright, airy, and completely devoid of the tension that was currently crushing my lungs. "Elena, darling, I was just looking at venue options for my birthday dinner. I'm thinking the Italian place on 4th, but the lighting is terrible for photos. What do you think?" Her casual tone threw me off balance. It was a classic Brenda tactic. Act as if the world is spinning perfectly on its axis, even while you're actively tilting it. "Mom," I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to sound professional. "I'm not calling about your birthday dinner right now. I'm looking at the RSVP list for the wedding." There was a pause, a beat of silence that was heavy with feigned ignorance. "Oh, how is that going? I assume it's finalizing." 48 people have canceled, Mom," I said, gripping the phone so hard my fingers ached. 48, in 2 days, Aunt Sarah, Uncle Mike, the cousins, everyone. Do you know anything about this?" She sighed, a long, dramatic exhalation that sounded like she was pitying a confused child. "Well, Elena, I did try to warn you." My heart stopped. Warn me about what? "The timing, sweetie, the timing." She clicked her tongue. "I told you that June was complicated. May is my month. You know how much effort I put into my birthday week. It's a milestone year, essentially." "You're turning 56, Mom," I said, my voice rising. "It's not a milestone, and my wedding is in June. Your birthday is next week. They are 3 weeks apart. How does that affect Aunt Sarah coming to my wedding?" "It's the exhaustion, Elena," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as if she were explaining quantum physics to a toddler. "I've been planning a very extensive itinerary for my birthday celebration, a week of events. Dinners, the spa day, the brunch, everyone is going to be so drained, financially and emotionally. It was just too much to ask them to turn around and do it all again for you so soon." I stood frozen in the middle of my living room. You told them not to come." "I didn't tell them anything of the sort," she snapped, defensive now. "I simply pointed out the logistics. I mentioned that I would be having my main gala on the 20th, and that I understood if people couldn't afford 2 gifts, 2 outfits, 2 weekends of travel. I gave them permission to prioritize, and, well, I suppose they made their choice." "You gave them permission to prioritize you," I corrected, tears stinging my eyes. "You made them choose." "I didn't make anyone do anything, Elena. Don't be dramatic. It's unbecoming of a bride. Besides," she added, her voice smoothing out into a sickly sweet tone, "it's probably for the best. You were stressing so much about the budget. Now you can have a smaller, more intimate affair. It's a blessing in disguise." "A blessing?" She called the destruction of my wedding a blessing. I thought about the non-refundable deposits. I thought about the custom table settings I had handmade. I thought about Liam, who had invited his entire family, who were all flying in from Ireland, while my side of the aisle would be stark, humiliatingly empty. "Mom," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and grief, "did you tell them the wedding was canceled, or that I didn't want them there?" "Don't be ridiculous," she scoffed, but the slight hesitation in her voice gave her away. "I just managed expectations. I might have mentioned that you were overwhelmed, that you were considering scaling back. I was protecting you, Elena. You always take on too much." She was rewriting reality in real time. She had planted a seed of doubt in everyone's mind, suggesting the wedding was shaky, that I was unstable, that skipping it was actually a favor to me. "You need to fix this," I said, tears finally spilling over. "You need to call them and tell them to come." I can't possibly dictate people's schedules, Alina. That would be rude. Now, about the Italian restaurant, do you think the calamari is too messy for a starter? I hung up. I couldn't listen to another second of it. I sank onto the sofa, burying my face in my hands. She had sabotaged the most important day of my life because she couldn't stand the idea of attention shifting away from her for even a moment. She needed a birthday month, and my wedding was an intruder in her kingdom. But as I sat there, weeping into my hands, a sudden, cold clarity began to crystallize in my chest. She thought she had won. She thought that by stripping away the guests, she had stripped away the joy. She thought that an empty room would break me, sending me crawling back to her for comfort, reinforcing the dynamic we had lived in for 29 years. Brenda the star, Alina the orbiting satellite. I lifted my head. ND looked at the corkboard above my desk. Pinned, there was the contract for the photographer. Julian V., one of the best editorial photographers in the state. I had called in massive favors to get her. My mother thought the wedding was just an event, a party, a popularity contest she could rig. But she had forgotten one crucial thing. I was a producer. I knew how to stage a scene. And more importantly, she had forgotten that the camera captures exactly what is in front of it and exactly what is missing. To understand why my mother, Brenda, would do this, you have to understand the role I have played in her life since I was old enough to hold a hairbrush. I wasn't just her daughter. I was her production assistant. My father left when I was 4. He couldn't handle my shine, Brenda always said, though I later learned he just couldn't handle the credit card debt. And from that moment on, it was the Brenda show. She was beautiful, I can't deny that. She had the kind of beauty that demanded maintenance. The perfect blonde highlights, the weekly facials, the personal trainer she couldn't afford but hired anyway. She worked vaguely in PR consulting, which mostly meant she went to luncheons and critiqued other people's events while trying to get her photo in the local society pages. I was the prop, the quiet, obedient accessory who made sure her lighting was good. When she turned 40, I was 14. I spent 3 weeks handwriting invitations because she didn't like the font on the printer. I blew up 200 balloons. I baked the cake because the bakery wanted too much money. During the party, she pushed me into the kitchen to wash dishes so the guests wouldn't see the mess, while she danced on a table. When she turned 50, I was 23 and fresh out of design school. I planned the entire gala. I negotiated with the caterers, I designed the floral arrangements, I paid for the open bar with my first bonus check. In her speech, she thanked her incredible vision and her ability to bring people together. She didn't mention my name once. I was used to it, I accepted it. It was the price of admission to her life. But then I met Liam. Liam was everything Brenda wasn't. He was quiet, steady, and completely unimpressed by superficiality. He was a pediatric nurse who saw real trauma and real joy every day, so he had zero patience for manufactured drama. Brenda hated him instantly. "He's too rustic," she had said when I first brought him home. "He doesn't have presence, Alina. He fades into the background." "He listens," I had replied, "and he sees me." That was the threat. Liam saw me, and because he saw me, he saw her. He saw the little digs she made about my weight. He saw how she would order the most expensive thing on the menu and wait for me to pick up the check. He saw the way she would interrupt my stories to talk about a compliment a stranger gave her at the grocery store. The wedding was the flashpoint. For the first time, I was planning an event where I was the main character. I wasn't the assistant, I wasn't the fixer, I was the bride. Brenda couldn't handle the shift in gravity. Throughout the planning process, the antagonist version of my mother began to fully emerge. It started with small things. "White isn't really your color, Alina," she said at the dress fitting in front of the seamstress. "It washes you out. Have you considered a nice beige, or maybe a blush, something that fades a bit more?" Then it was the venue. "You're having it there, but the acoustics are terrible. No one will hear me, hear the vows." But the real escalation began when she started dating the Count. That's what Liam and I called him. His real name was Richard, a wealthy, twice-divorced real estate developer she had snagged at a charity auction 6 months ago. Richard was her ticket to the lifestyle she felt she deserved. He was flashy, loud, and loved to throw money around. Suddenly, Brenda wasn't just my mother. She was the future Mrs. Richard Sterling in her mind, and she needed to project an image of absolute youth and vitality. Having a nearly 30-year-old daughter getting married, that made her look old. That made her the mother of the bride, a matronly title she despised. So she decided to rebrand. She came over to my apartment about a month before the RSVPs started dropping. She walked in, looking stunning in a new Chanel suit that I knew Richard had paid for, and critically eyed my centerpiece mock-ups. "These are lovely, Alina," she said, running a manicured finger over a peony. "But are we sure about the date? Richard is taking me to St. Tropez for my birthday week in May. We might extend it." "The date is set, Mom," I said, putting down my glue gun. "You know this. It's been set for a year." She sighed, checking her reflection in my hallway mirror. "It's just inconvenient. And you know, Richard thinks it's a bit tacky to have a wedding so close to a major birthday. It splits the family's focus. He thinks you should push it to the fall. October is lovely. I look good in autumn tones." "I am not moving my wedding to match your boyfriend's aesthetic preferences," I said, feeling a rare surge of defiance. She turned to me, her eyes cold and hard, stripping away the motherly mask. "It's not just about aesthetics, Alina. It's about respect. It's about knowing your place in the family hierarchy. You are asking everyone to celebrate you when they should be celebrating me. It's selfish." "Selfish?" I laughed, a harsh, dry sound. "Mom, it's my wedding." "And I gave you life," she snapped. "Don't forget who made you." She walked out. I didn't hear from her for 3 weeks. And then the cancellations started. She wasn't just trying to move the date. She was punishing me for saying no. She was burning the village because I dared to build a house that wasn't a shrine to her. The silence in my apartment had shifted. It was no longer the silence of shock. It was the silence of strategy. Liam came home at 8:30 p.m., looking exhausted, his scrubs rumpled. He took one look at me sitting amidst a sea of declined RSVP cards and the untouched wedding spreadsheets, and he knew. He didn't say a word. He just walked over, wrapped his arms around me, and held me while I finally let out the sob I had been holding back since the phone call with my mother. "She did it," I choked out into his shoulder. "She told them not to come. She told them the wedding was canceled or that I was unstable. 47 people, Liam, my whole side of the family." Liam pulled back, his jaw tight. "We're going to fix this." "How?" I wiped my eyes. "We can't call 47 people and call my mother a liar." "It's he said," she said. "She's already poisoned the well. If I call them begging, I just look desperate, which confirms whatever narrative she spun about me being overwhelmed and erratic." Liam sat down at the table and picked up one of the decline notifications. "We don't beg," he said, his voice hard. "We investigate. We find out exactly what she said, and we find the leverage." He was right. I couldn't fight a ghost. I needed the script. The next morning, I took a personal day from work. I couldn't focus on other people's weddings when mine was bleeding out. I needed an ally on the inside. Someone who was close enough to the family gossip mill to know the truth, but distant enough from Brenda's inner circle to maybe, just maybe, not be under her spell. I thought of cousin Mark. He was the black sheep of the Miller family, mostly because he had refused to lend Brenda money 5 years ago and was subsequently excommunicated from her holiday parties. He was one of the 47 cancellations. I called him. "Alina," he sounded surprised. "Everything okay?" "Mark, I need you to be honest with me," I said, skipping the pleasantries. "Why aren't you coming to the wedding?" There was a long pause. "Look, Alina, I love you, you know that, but your mom, she called me last week." "And said what?" "She said," Mark hesitated. "She said the wedding was off. Or, well, effectively off. She said you and Liam were having significant issues, and that you were only going through with the ceremony to save face, but that you were secretly hoping people wouldn't show up so you could have an excuse to cancel the reception and save money. She said we'd be doing you a favor by declining, that it would be a mercy not to witness the train wreck. My stomach dropped. It was worse than I thought. She hadn't just said it was inconvenient. She had painted my relationship as a failure and me as a pathetic figure needing a mercy kill for my own event. And she mentioned something else, Mark added, his voice lowering. She said that since she's paying for the catering, she has the right to trim the fat. I froze. She's not paying for the catering, Mark. Liam and I are paying for everything, every cent. What? Mark sounded genuinely shocked. But she sent out an email to the aunts. She forwarded a budget breakdown showing she was covering 70% of the costs. She said she was hemorrhaging money on this wedding and that your demands were bankrupting her. The clever trap clicked into place in my mind, the leverage. My mother is a narcissist, but she is also a fraud. She had built her reputation in the family on the idea that she was the benevolent matriarch, the financier, the one who made things happen. She claimed credit for my success, my education, and now my wedding. But I had the receipts, literally. I had the bank statements. I had the vendor contracts signed in my name. I had the emails where she explicitly refused to contribute a dime because she needed her liquidity for the Saint-Tropez trip. And crucially, I had something else. Years ago, when I first started my business, Brenda had insisted on being listed as a consultant on my LLC paperwork so she could guide me. I had removed her name legally 2 years ago when she tried to use the company card for Botox, but I never told her. She still thought she had legal standing in my business. She thought she owned me. Mark, I said, my voice steady now, I'm going to send you a PDF. It contains the vendor contracts and the payment receipts. It shows that Liam and I have paid for everything. And it shows the email where Mom refused to help. Okay, Mark said slowly. I don't want you to share it yet, I said. I just want you to have it. I need you to know the truth. Are you still not coming? If that's the truth, Mark said, anger creeping into his voice, then she played us. She made us look like cheapskates and you look like a charity case. Exactly, but don't re-RSVP yet. I have a plan. I hung up. I didn't just want guests back. I wanted justice. If I simply corrected the record, she would spin it again. She would say I forged the documents or that she gave me the cash under the table. No, I needed her to hang herself. 2 days later, I went to my mother's house. I didn't call ahead. Her house was a shrine to herself. Photos of her from her modeling days, a catalog shoot for a local mall in 1995, lined the hallway. There were no photos of me, except for one where I was looking at her adoringly. She was in the living room, looking at fabric swatches for her birthday gala. Richard was there too, sitting in the armchair, nursing a scotch and looking bored. Elena, she looked up, feigning delight, but with a flicker of wariness in her eyes. To what do I owe the pleasure? Did you finally come to your senses about the date? I walked in, not sitting down. I stood in the center of the room, my purse heavy on my shoulder. I spoke to Mark, I said calmly. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Oh, that troublemaker. I hope you didn't listen to anything he said. He told me that you told the family Liam and I are separating, I said, and that the wedding is a sham, and that you are paying for everything so you have the right to cancel guests. Richard looked up, interested now. You're paying for the wedding, Brenda? I thought you said you were saving for the villa rental. Brenda's eyes darted between me and Richard. I am contributing significantly in spirit, Richard, and I've put aside money for emergencies. She turned to me, her eyes narrowing into slits. Elena, you're hysterical, you're twisting my words. I simply expressed concern about your relationship. Mothers worry, it's what we do. You told them it was a mercy to cancel, I said, stepping closer. You lied to them, Mom. You humiliated me. I saved you, she shouted, standing up. Look at you. You're a mess. You can't afford this wedding. You can't afford the lifestyle you're trying to project. I was doing damage control so you wouldn't be embarrassed when the checks bounced." "The checks haven't bounced," I said, pulling a folder from my bag, "because I pay my bills unlike you." I placed the folder on the coffee table in front of Richard. "What is this?" Brenda lunged for it, but Richard was faster. He put his hand over the folder. "Let's see it," Richard said, his voice low. "It's nothing," Brenda screeched. "It's her little scrapbooking project. She's deluded." Richard opened the folder. Inside was the breakdown, not just of the wedding, but of the loans Brenda had taken from family members over the years. Loans she claimed were for my education or my medical bills, but which I had never seen. I had done my digging. I had found out she had borrowed $5,000 from Aunt Sarah last year for Alina's surgery, a surgery I never had. "Brenda," Richard said, reading the document, "this says you borrowed $5,000 from Sarah for a appendectomy for Alina in 2024. I pulled up my shirt slightly to show my unscarred abdomen. "I still have my appendix, Richard." The silence in the room was absolute. Brenda's face went from pale to a mottled red. She turned on me, her mask completely gone. It wasn't the face of a mother anymore, it was the face of a cornered animal. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed. "I gave you everything, I sacrificed my youth for you, and this is how you repay me? By trying to ruin my relationship, by trying to sabotage my happiness." "You sabotaged my wedding," I said. "You stole my family." "I am your family," she screamed. "They don't care about you. They only tolerate you because of me. Without me, you are nothing. You are a boring, invisible little girl who thinks she can play princess for a day. Well, guess what? No one is coming. You're going to stand there in that empty hall and everyone will know that you are unloved." She was panting, her chest heaving. She had said the quiet part out loud. She wanted me to be unloved because it made her feel indispensable. Richard stood up slowly. He looked at the documents, then at Brenda's twisted face. He didn't look angry, he looked disgusted. "I think you should leave, Alina," Richard said quietly. "Richard, don't listen to her." Brenda grabbed his arm. "She's mentally unstable. She's off her meds." I looked at my mother one last time. "I'm not leaving, Richard. I'm done. But Mom, you should know, I recorded this." I held up my phone. The voice memo app was running. The red waveform was pulsing. Brenda went white. "If you don't call every single person you lied to and tell them the truth," I said, "I will send this recording to the entire family group chat. And I will send it to your society friends too." "You wouldn't," she whispered. "Try me." I turned and walked out. I expected to feel triumphant. Instead, I just felt hollow. I had the leverage, but the damage was done. She had revealed who she truly was, and even if I forced her to recant, the stain was there. The guests might come back out of obligation, but the joy was tainted. I didn't send the recording immediately. I gave her 24 hours. But narcissists don't fold, they double down. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of notifications. Brenda hadn't called the family to apologize. She had gone on the offensive. She had posted a long, emotional status on Facebook. "My heart is breaking today. To have a child you sacrificed everything for turn around and blackmail you is a pain no mother should know. My daughter Alina is going through a severe mental health crisis. She has created fake documents and is threatening to ruin my reputation if I don't give her money for her wedding. Please, family and friends, if she contacts you, know that she is not herself. We are getting her the help she needs. Please pray for us." The post had 200 likes and dozens of comments from her friends. "Stay strong, Brenda. Kids these days are so ungrateful. Sending prayers." She had checkmated me. If I released the recording now, it would look like a deepfake or a manic episode, just as she claimed. She had inoculated the audience against the truth. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the screen. She was winning. She was going to destroy my reputation, my business, and my wedding, all to protect her lie. Liam walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. He looked at the screen, read the post, and set the coffee down with a deliberate clunk. Okay, he said, no more Mr. Nice Guy. What can we do? I asked, feeling defeated. She's turned the narrative. Anything I say now makes me look crazy. We don't say anything, Liam said. We show them. Show them what? We hold the wedding, he said firmly. We hold it exactly as planned. We make it the most beautiful, joyous, sane event of the century, and we document it. But no one will be there. It'll be empty. My family will be there, Liam said. My friends will be there, our colleagues. And the few people from your side who saw through her, Mark is coming, right? Yeah, Mark texted me this morning. He saw the post and said, she's lost her mind. I'm in. Good, that's one. We don't need a crowd, Alina. We need the truth. And we need to expose her to the people who actually matter, the ones she's lying to. Liam sat down and took my hands. We are going to hire a videographer, a documentary team. We are going to record the speeches. We are going to record the vows. And we are going to live stream the ceremony. Live stream it. Yes, we send a link to everyone who canceled. We tell them, we understand you can't make it due to the circumstances Mom described, but we wanted to share our joy with you virtually. I realized what he was doing. It was brilliant. If they tuned in, they wouldn't see a mental health crisis. They wouldn't see a sham marriage. They would see a perfectly composed, happy, professional woman marrying the love of her life. They would see the lie unraveling in real time without me having to say a word. But we needed one more nail in the coffin. I called Julian, my photographer. Julian, I need a favor. I need you to not just take photos of the couple. I need you to take photos of the absence. What do you mean? She asked. I need editorial shots of the empty reserved seats with the mother of the bride place card. I need shots of the uneaten meals. I want it to look artistic, but I want the message to be clear. She isn't here. I love it, Julian said. It's dark, but I love it. The week leading up to the wedding was a blur of focused fury. I didn't respond to Brenda's texts. She sent 5, ranging from I forgive you to you will regret this. I didn't respond to the flying monkeys, the ants who texted me saying, please get help, honey. I just worked, I polished the vows, I fitted the dress, I finalized the lighting. And then, the night before the wedding, I got a text from cousin Jessica. Hey Alina, I saw your mom's post. But I also remember that time she told everyone I was pregnant in high school when I just had the flu. I'm starting to wonder, is the wedding actually on? I replied with a single photo. Me and Liam, smiling, holding our marriage license at the courthouse. The wedding is on, noon tomorrow, live stream link here, I'd love for you to watch. She replied, I'm not watching, I'm driving. I'll be there in 4 hours. One domino, that was all it took. Jessica called her sister called Aunt Sarah called Uncle Mike. The whispers started, not the poison whispers Brenda had started, but the antidote. Why is Alina posting normal photos? Why is Liam's family flying in if it's canceled? Why is Brenda posting about a spa day while her daughter is supposedly having a breakdown? The doubt was creeping in, but Brenda still had the majority. Most of the 47 were still gone. The morning of the wedding, I woke up with a calm I hadn't felt in months. I looked out the window at the clear blue June sky. Today, I wasn't fighting my mother. Today, I was erasing her. The church doors opened, and the first notes of the processional music floated into the air. It wasn't the traditional wedding march. I had chosen Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. A little on the nose, maybe, but it felt right. I walked down the aisle alone. I had asked my father to come, but Brenda had gotten to him first, threatening to cut off his alimony if he showed up, a bluff, since the alimony ended years ago, but he was a coward. So, it was just me. Head held high, shoulders back. As I stepped into the nave, I didn't look at the empty pews on the left side, the bride's side. I looked straight ahead at Liam. He was standing at the altar, looking handsome and solid in his charcoal suit, his eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made the rest of the room fade away. But as I walked, I heard a rustle. I glanced to the left. In the back pew, huddled together like refugees, were 3 people: Cousin Jessica, her husband, and Aunt Sarah. They had driven through the night. They looked tired, rumpled, and guilty, but they were there. I felt a lump form in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I smiled at them, a genuine, radiant smile, and kept walking. The ceremony was flawless. The vows were honest. We laughed, we cried, we exchanged rings. The live stream camera, mounted discreetly on a tripod, captured every second. And then came the reception. We had set up a large screen in the corner of the hall, originally intended for a slideshow of childhood photos. But Liam had a different idea. "Let's leave the live stream chat up," he had whispered to me during the cocktail hour. "Let's see who's watching." The reception began. The room was half full, populated mostly by Liam's boisterous Irish family and my friends from the industry. The vibe was intimate, loving, and defiantly joyous. Midway through dinner, the best man, Liam's brother, stood up for a toast. He was a large man with a booming voice. "I know there's been a lot of confusion leading up to this day," he started, glancing at the empty tables on my side. "But looking at Liam and Alina, I don't see confusion. I see clarity. I see 2 people who fought for this moment." He raised his glass. "To Alina, for showing us that family isn't just blood, it's the people who show up." "Here's here," the room roared. At that moment, a notification sound pinged from the laptop connected to the screen. Then another. Then a cascade. I looked over. The chat box on the live stream was scrolling. User Aunt Jen, "Oh my God, she looks beautiful." User Cousin Mike, "Wait, is that Sarah there? I thought Brenda said Sarah was boycotting." User Uncle Bob, "The food looks amazing." Brenda said they were serving pizza. User Grandma Betty, "Why wasn't I told about the link?" Brenda said the wedding was canceled. The truth was spreading like a virus through the digital veins of my family. They were watching. They were seeing the lie crumble. And then the coup de grace. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a notification from Instagram. Brenda had posted a photo. It was her, holding a champagne glass with the caption, "Enjoying a peaceful birthday weekend. So sad my daughter couldn't be mentally well enough to join us, praying for her healing." She had tagged herself at a luxury spa. I looked at Liam. He nodded. I walked over to the DJ booth, where my laptop was connected. I took the microphone. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice amplified through the hall. "And to those watching online, thank you for joining us virtually. We missed you." I paused, looking directly into the camera lens. "I know there have been some stories circulating about my health and about the status of this wedding. I just want to clarify, I am happy, I am healthy, and I am married." I motioned to the screen behind me. I minimized the chat and opened a folder. And just so there is no confusion about why some seats are empty today, I wanted to share the budget breakdown one last. Time for transparency. I didn't project the whole thing, just one slide, the email from Brenda. Subject, Ray, wedding contribution from Brenda Miller Designs at Gmail. Com to Alina, I will not be contributing to the wedding. I need my liquidity for St. Tropez. You need to learn to live within your means. Don't expect me to bail you out. And next to it, the screenshot of her Facebook post from yesterday. My daughter is blackmailing me for money. I let it sit on the screen for 10 seconds. The room went silent. The live stream chat exploded. User Grandma Betty, BRNDA said she paid for the catering. User Uncle Bob, she told me she gave you 10K. User Aunt Jen, I can't believe this. She lied to all of us. I closed the laptop. Enjoy the cake, everyone, I said. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to fight. I just needed to turn on the light. And like cockroaches, the lies scattered. The fallout was nuclear. By the time the reception ended, Brenda's phone had apparently blown up so badly she had to turn it off. The family group chat, which she had ruled with an iron fist for decades, turned on her. Aunt Sarah, who had witnessed the wedding firsthand, became the town crier. She told everyone how beautiful it was, how sane I was, and how cruel Brenda's absence felt in the room. The birthday week was ruined. No one went to her gala. Richard broke up with her 3 days later, not because of the family drama specifically, but because he realized the wealthy socialite he was dating was actually a woman who borrowed money from her relatives and lied about her daughter's mental health. He didn't want the liability. Brenda tried to backtrack. She blamed stress. She blamed menopause. She even tried to blame me for hacking her email. But the evidence was too public. The spell was broken. A week later, I was sitting on my balcony with Liam, drinking coffee and looking through the wedding photos. Julian had delivered. There was a stunning black-and-white shot of the empty front row seat with the mother of the bride card. It was haunting. It looked like art. I posted the album to social media. I didn't write a long, angry caption. I just wrote, "The best day of my life. Thank you to everyone who made it and to everyone who found their way back to the truth. Love wins, just married." The post went viral in our local circle. Then it jumped to Reddit. Strangers were commenting, validating me, calling out the toxicity. My phone rang. It was Brenda. I looked at the screen. For the first time in 29 years, I didn't feel the urge to answer. I didn't feel the guilt. I didn't feel the fear. I pressed the decline button. Then I blocked the number. I looked at Liam. "So about that honeymoon?" "Italy," he asked. "Italy?" I smiled. "I hear St. Tropez is overrated anyway." We never got the 47 guests back fully. Some bridges were too burned by the awkwardness. But the ones who mattered, Aunt Sarah, Jessica, Mark, they stayed. We built a new family, one based on truth rather than performance. And every year on my anniversary, which falls suspiciously close to Brenda's birthday, I post a photo of my wedding cake. It tastes sweeter every time.